I want to welcome every one of you to today's design review, and I'm glad you made it. And I have three designs today from the group members. So on my first design here that says Dubai Expo Deal, I have so many things that I think is affecting the success of this design. I'm going to share them with you, and I'll also share what I expect the designer to do that will help him come up with good concepts or good layouts when working on design like this next time. So on this design, the first thing I noticed that is not helping here is the lack of grid. Now, grid is part of what helped the look of our design. The use of grid is what make good design balance. All right, and that's why you notice that any house you see that is built without the use of planning, they always look ugly. All right. In fact, people don't really do that. Every good house must have planning, and your planning in graphic design is the use of grid. So using grid will help you know how to align or help you align your content well. So I noticed that's what is affecting the layout of this design. And then another thing again is the use of font. Fonts like these are not good for corporate design. Whenever you're asked to work on project like this, play more with sans serif type. Sans serif type are the best font for corporate designs. All right, so please don't use fonts like this for your title. Then another thing I noticed again here is I noticed the designer is trying to be careful with the use of color. He's trying to see how he can make it that the color use is not going to go outside of the color on the project. But the way you now use it here, it looks dull because most time when we use dark colors like this and there's no color that is contrasting on that color, it will make the design look boring. So I like the fact I use this blue, but it would have been nice if we have maybe let's say orange, maybe this shade of color here on the title so as to give life to the project. The beauty of every design is when you play with color well. In fact, color is part of the secret of helping design look good. When there's no color, there's no design. Color is what gives life to design. So when you don't use it, they always make when you don't use it the right way, you always make design look boring. And then another thing I notice here again is the way the elements are too close to the frame. All right. So the margin used here is too tiny. The use of margin is also part of what make your project look professional and mature. When your content is too close to the frame of your project, it won't look professional. It will look like it will make the project look childish. So the use of margin is very, very key, very important where graphic design is concerned. And then I also noticed you use this brush effect here. This is a corporate design, bro. Avoid grunge effects like this. Now, I'm not saying you should not use it, but you only use it when the message on the design connects with the brush or the grunge effect. All right. Most time when we use brush effect like this is when we are doing something that got to do with youth. When our focus is capturing youth. And for this type of project, I don't think the focus is only or the target audience is only young people. It's for both old and young. So my advice is whenever you're working on project that is connected to project that got to do with young and old people, don't use grunge effects because old people always piss them off. Like I always say to my student that graphic design is we using still image to pass a message. And part of how we do this is when we use the right element on our design project. Then another thing again I notice here is the fact that we have caps here and those stars here. These are elements that are not helping your design project, so don't use them, please. All right, don't use them. The fact that you have them as part of your symbol in your type of font does not mean you're supposed to use them when they are not necessary. Okay, so please don't use them. I always say this that the goal or the idea of good design is not for you to add but to subtract. I'll go straight to my next design here, which is a church poster. And here, this design looks boring. And one of the reason why this is boring is because the contrast is not cool. It's boring. All right, the contrast is boring, and part of, like I said in the first design, that part of what always make our design look boring is when we don't use color the right way. I would advise whoever did this design, or those of you who have not heard of me saying this in this design review, that I have a tutorial on how to use color on YouTube. So I would advise you go check that tutorial out so as to be able to know how to combine color well. Okay, so the use of color here is boring, and that's why this design is not successful. And then another thing again I notice here is when working on design projects, the way we combine images on our background matters a lot. All right, most time when we use background on our design project, what we are trying to depict is called depth. Depth in the sense that we're trying to say, okay, whatever I place in front of this background is far, like maybe like is far from it or is close to it. So if you want to make it show like it's close to it, that's when you use shadow behind your elements. But if you want to say it's far, like your content is far from the background, you don't use shadow, which is what I noticed that this designer did here. So the idea is making it look like, okay, the content, the information on the design is far from the background. I wish I can do a special tutorial on the use of background for you guys, but the use of background is also long. All right, but I'll try and see how I can, do a special training for you guys on background. Okay, so that's for that. So the reason why I say all this is because I noticed that if you check the background, you see something like a wet paper, and then we now have this landscape view here. So this wet paper and this landscape view here is passing another message. And what is that message? It looks as if this image of this landscape here is printed on a wet paper. And that's why we have this effect on it. Yes, this would have been nice if the information on the design is saying something about wet paper. All right. But if that is not, if you don't have that information here, I see no reason why we have this effect with the wet paper and the image on the background. Okay, it would have been nice if we just had the image without the wet paper effect. I believe that would still, help the project a bit. And another thing again I notice here is the use of the brush, the grunge brush here. You only use, okay, let me give you one of my secrets. You only use grunge brush when the background has grunge effects. I'll repeat it again. You only use grunge brush when your background or your font has, this grunge effect on it. If your brush or your background, I mean, if your font, excuse me, if your type of font or your background does not have grunge effect on it, I see no reason why you need to use the grunge brush effect. Don't use it. It won't help the flow of your design. There's something called unity in graphic design, and that unity simply means the element on your design, making them work together as one family. Make sure that there's unity in your project. So then another thing again I notice here is the way you arrange the speakers here. Please, next time when you have this type of list, try allow more space between the names. All right, allow more space between the name, and then also I noticed that we have the same issue here. And when you put space between the names, between the rows, yeah, um, you can use lines or rules. All right, the idea of using the rule is to control the eye movement. All right, so please work on that. All right, so I'm going to go to the last design for today, which is the Fling Fridays. All right, so on this design, so I'm still going to go back to I'm going to start with the background side again, which is the using element on your background the wrong way. I have this face of this lady here, and then I have silhouette of people dancing. If I'm going to define this image here, and that's why these are simple things that always make it look like when we are done with our design project, we always feel like something is still not right, something is missing. All right, when we don't allow unity on our design project, it always make us go through this issue of going back to the project and start looking at it like something is not right. All right, so if you look at this image of this lady here, is bigger than the silhouette, and this is looking more like this lady is a giant. All right. It would have been nice if the picture of the lady is in front, and then this silhouette is the silhouette is behind it. There's something called perspective in graphic design. All right. I'm sure my photographer brothers will understand this. They will understand what I'm trying to say here. The same way photographers use it is the same way we designers use it. The way we arrange content in our design, most especially images, is shouldn't be different from the way we look at things in real life. All right. So if we are going to look at the picture of this lady now, this is looking more like this lady's bigger, like it's a giant, and we now have these small people looking as if they are worshiping her. All right. Now I know when I went to check the meaning of this fling, I think it's saying so. It says something about a weird activity, like something adult kind of thing. All right, and I'm sure that's why the designer makes use of this lady with the light effect on her lips. But there are other good images you can use to help this project, and it will still look nice. Yeah. Another thing I think you did well here that you still need to work more on is the fact that you use colorful effect on the background. Yes, when it comes to you doing party posters, bright colors, different colors are always nice most time. But the way you did it here, it looks as if it looks as if there's a fire burn or something. So please, your background is very important when it comes to doing design. All right, so we need to be very careful with the way you use your background. And then your elements here are not well aligned. Let's see. All right, so this is good, but this here is not okay. All right, let's see here. All right, this is not okay. I expect this to extend to this side. All right, so you need to work on that. All right, and another thing again is please avoid putting your dates here. All right, don't put dates here because most time this space here is always good for logo. So don't do that. Okay, and we are going to go to the redesigned version of this tutorial. So I'm going to create a new document now, and I'm going to make this 720 by 720. This is going to be a party poster. All right. So I'm going to select, I'm going to make my resolution 100 because since I'm not printing this, I'm going to leave that 700. Normally I use 72, but today, because I know I'm going to be adding so many effects to this, I am going to use uh, 100, and my color mode is going to be on RGB because this is going to be on social media. Okay, and I'll leave every other settings the way they are and click on the create button. So before I start the design, all right, I need you to know this, that when it comes to party poster, it's always good to make it bright. All right, it's always good to make it have this shiny look because whenever we see stuff like that on design projects, there's a message that it passes, which is you always show this fun feel, like this happy mood. All right. Another example is I'm sure everybody is always happy when you see that the day is bright, or maybe you find yourself in a bright environment. Nobody likes to stay in the dark. So whenever you are trying to depict happiness or joy or fun in graphic design, it's always good to do something bright, something shining. All right. And that's what I'm going to apply to this project. Okay, so I'm going to drag my image in. Now, all the image I use here are something you can get online for free. Okay, so please pardon me. The quality of my image is not really bright, and the reason why the reason why I didn't spend too much on this is because I know it's a free tutorial, so it's not good if it would be nice if I spend money buying images. All right, so I'm going to put this here like so, and then again, guys, this is not the only solution to make this look better. All right, the reason why I'm doing this is just to help you with knowing how to come up with simple design faster. All right, so I'm going to stop here on this and I'll put this here like so. So I'm going to copy the title, which is Fling Friday. So I'll copy that here and I'll paste it. The font I'm going to be using is called Shader So this is it here. So I'm going to select this. Okay. And I'll make this uh, bigger. Okay. So the reason why I'm using this font, I believe you already know why, because I mentioned it when I was reviewing the designs that youth design is when you're working on youth design or young designs for young people, is always good to play with fonts like this. All right. So another thing again is because I've looked at my background, I have all this busy feel on it. All right. And that's why I decided to use this type of font. All right. So I'm going to make a copy of this, and this should be here. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, okay, Caesar, you did not use grid here. Why? Now, it's not every time that you're supposed to go out and then start drawing grid on your design project. No. Um, when the information on your design is complicated, like it's too much, then you can use grid. But when you have less content, you can use grid and then you can do without using grid. But make sure that your information are well aligned. Now, notice what I'm doing here. If you notice that when I placed my Friday, I make sure that is the Y is on the same line with N here. All right. Just make sure that your element is anchored to something. These are things that used to help design look beautiful and mature. So then I'm going to copy, I'll paste that here. All right. And I'll make this smaller. You see, every move I make on my design project always have a reason. And these are things that always help us with, that always, help good design look successful. We don't do things without um, any reason. I didn't use Gribra, but I'm making sure that my information is aligning to the information that I have on my design project. So I'll copy the dates. After my title, I always like people to see my date. See, please, guys, this is not the only application you can use to achieve project like this. Okay, there are so many applications you can use. You can use CorelDRAW to achieve it, but the only problem with you using CorelDRAW is you won't be able to achieve the effects on the background. All right, so and that's why I'm not going to advise settle down with using CorelDRAW for your design projects or this type of project. Okay, when it comes to designing of party posters, I don't always advise designers to use CorelDRAW because you won't be able to do some task with CorelDRAW. Okay, so please, guys, work more on learning how to use Photoshop. Okay. I believe if you can spend time looking at my tutorials or other tutorials online, I'm sure it will help you with, you know, knowing how to use Photoshop very well. Okay, so I'm going to change this to, let's see, this. Okay, just a bit. So now you see the way I'm allowing space between my content here. All right, space is very important. Space is very important. All right, so I'm going to select the date, the time, the venue, and make sure that everything is well aligned. And so for this, I'm going to put that here. All right, so I'm going to use the same. So most of the fonts you see me use on my tutorial are fonts that you can easily get online. All right, they are not hard to get. Okay, so um, you can download them. So so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the color of this. I'm going to pick a color from here, or you know what? Let's just use yellow. I'm going to use yellow. Okay, this is good. Okay, so The color I'm using here is the it's called the monochrome color harmony. All right, so it's called the monochrome. So monochrome most time always, people don't know. They always help with making designs look unique. When a monochrome simply means when you use one particular color with different value of it. All right, when you use a color with different value of that color, it's called monochrome. All right, so and that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to use the same color here. All right, and I'm going to put the same color here. So this is how I work on a good day. My colors always come after when I'm done with my layout, with my arrangement. So come here, and when I work this way, it always make design more fun to me. So I'm going to select all the layers here. I'm going to hit Ctrl T to bring out the free transform. Right click and select skew and push this up like so. And so I'm going to move this down. All right, I'm going to move this here. Why? Because this side of the project is more darker, and I need that to help with the visibility of my content here. So I'm going to go back to scale and push this down. I'm going to boost the color of the project by activating hue saturation, and I'm going to increase that like so. All right, this is good. Okay, and another thing again I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a marquee shape and hit Ctrl J to cut out the background. All right, and I'll go to filter, blur, and select Gaussian blur. Okay, and I'll reduce this like so and hit the OK button, and then I'm going to change my blend mode to screen. Right, screen. And I'll reduce the opacity a bit. All right. Now remember I said something about the shiny effect, okay? And that's what I'm trying to achieve here, okay? So for this, I think this is too close to this side, so I'm going to push it down a bit, right? So I'm going to push this down, push it down a bit. All right. So the whole idea here is to make it look like the title is in front of the date, time, venue, and the for more info. So I'm going to move this here like so. Then another thing I'm going to do again is this. I'm going to make a copy of this, move this up. I'm going to move this to this side and draw another marquee shape here like so, and hit Ctrl J to cut out that um, part from the background layer. And I'm going to delete this, and I'll go to filter, blur, and blur gallery and select field blur. So what I want to apply now is called bouquet. So then I'm going to increase the light bouquet or add more to the blur so as to make the bouquet more stronger like so. And I think this is okay for me. And I'm going to select the OK button and hit Ctrl T to bring out the free transform. And I'm going to make this bigger like so. All right. And I'll change this to screen. All right. Now you see our project is beginning to have life. All right, so position this here, make a copy of this again, and make sure this is somewhere around here. Make a copy of it again. Now I'm making a copy of the layer with Ctrl J. So I'm gonna hit the free transform and just rotate this so as to have another, create a new layer above the layer one, and I'm going to select brush, change the foreground to black. And I always like to start with small brush size, okay? So I'm going to click once, all right, and use the free transform to now make it bigger, okay? So another thing I always like to do when it comes to party poster is I always like to create drama with my title. So for this one, for this project, the type of drama I'm going to create is this. I'm going to select each of the layers. I'll make a copy of it. I'll make a copy of it and I'll right click and say convert to shape. All right. And I'll select the shape tool here so as to be able to have access to the property of those two layers, which is the layers are just converted to shape. So then I'm going to change this to no color, and I'll change this to the yellow that we've been using. And then I'm going to select the title, all right? And this should be above this. I'm going to use my, the arrow key on my keyboard to just move this up like so. All right, so I move it to the left 3 times and then to the top 3 times. Now, the reason why it's not visible now is because I did not remember to apply figure to my stroke. So I'm going to go back to the shape tool now and change this to 1. Let's see what 1 is going to give us. Let's just make it, I think 1 is fine. Let's see. This is good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to this side a bit and just reduce the opacity because it's affecting the look of my title. All right, so I think this is okay for me. Okay, and the other thing I'm going to add again is called noise. So I'm going to create a new layer and I'll call this noise. All right, so the reason why I always add noise to my project is to create what I call depth. There's this feel that you always give my project that whenever people see it, you always look different to them. All right, so and that's my secret. I don't joke with noise. I know some of you know that. So I'm going to change my blend mode to soft light and I'll make sure that I check the fill with soft light neutral color 50% gray and I'm going to select the OK button. Then I'll go to filter noise and I'm going to select add noise. So then I'm going to make sure that I'm on the monochromatic option here and my distribution is going to be on uniform. And my amount is going to be 18.7 or we can even go lower. If I make it, let's just 17. 17 and I'm going to select the OK button and I'm going to reduce the opacity of this a bit. All right, and I'm going to move everything here up a bit because there's one other thing I still need to add. One of my favorite handwriting fonts, which is Mind Blowing, which is this. All right, and I'll close the tracking. I'll make my tracking 0 and I'll position this somewhere around here. All right, and I'll make a new layer and I'll call this, go to my brush settings, select brush to use the hard brush, make sure the spacing is set to 0, turn off transfer, and I'm going to make sure my smooth is set to 69 like so, and I'll reduce my brush size. Now my brush size should be the same width with the letters, excuse me, use that here. All right, then I'll pick a color from here and I'm just going to draw. So, all right, so the reason why we have that there is to create more emphasis on that information there. So another beautiful thing about this is no matter how small you make it, it will still be visible to the people. Then I'm going to stamp visible of all the layers by holding on Ctrl Shift Alt and then E, and I'll double click on the layer to bring out the layer style, and I'm going to turn off blue and green. I only want red to be visible and I'm going to select the OK button. Now look at the effect I'm about to achieve now with that small move that I made. So I'm going to use my right key to move 2 times and I'll use the down key to move 2 times. Then I'm going to reduce the opacity of this a bit. All right, and then we are done. So thank you guys for joining today's design review. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and share this with your designer friends and family. And if you have any comments regarding today's design review, please drop it in the comment section of this tutorial. And if there's anything you think I miss, please drop a message in the comment section. Let me know. So also hit the like button if you enjoyed today's design review, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.